All right, VP9F testing. So this is a VP9F. This is my latest slide milling design. It does have porting as well. This slide is for an instructor buddy of mine. And before I send it back to him, I'm going to see if I can get through 500 rounds of MagTech without any malfunctions. This is just the 115 grain MagTech, and we'll see if we'll get through it without any malfunctions. I am doing this test today with the stock recoil spring, so if I do have issues, I do have a reduced power recoil spring from GR8 Tactical, but I would like to get through this test with the stock recoil spring, so I'm gonna have to stop a couple times here to reload magazines. But I think I'll just leave the camera running and we'll see if we can get through this without any malfunctions. I'm also going to look for a slide lockback on every empty mag and see what we get. So we didn't get slide lockback, but no malfunctions. Based on how the brass is ejecting, I might at some point in this test switch over to the GR8 Tactical reduced powered spring. So we'll do another mag. We did get slide lockback on that one. This is a fresh Cerakote job. I did lube it up pretty well. So there might also be just a little bit of break-in period here. All right, so we got a first malfunction. We got a stovepipe. So we'll clear that out of here. Put this round back in. That's one malfunction. Stock recoil spring. All right, we got slide lockback. We got another stovepipe. We'll see if we can get through this mag with the stock recoil spring, and then I'll change it over. So the brass is landing, right about here. Some of it's just going forward, which usually means it's coming out and hitting the optic. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this recoil spring over to the GR8 Tactical and continue the test. The GR8 Tactical recoil spring is in, this is my slide. So I'll take this out, put it in his slide. He has one of these to run in this if he needs it. All right, so now we'll continue and see what we get. that brass is ejecting further. Alright, the gun itself just feels like it's running better with that recoil spring, so that might be the ticket. Alright, it definitely seems like it's running better, so I'll reload all these magazines and continue with the test. All right, my hands are going to be tired at the end of this. So all the magazines are reloaded. So we'll continue this, and then I'll have to stop and reload again. So hopefully we get through the rest of this without any malfunctions. All right, so that went better. The brass is really starting to eject well. So again, some of that might have just been breaking in that fresh Cerakote. Well, this is gonna be pretty hot. So I will continue this test with this reduced powered recoil spring. And then I have some other ammo with me. I have some American Eagle, Federal American Eagle 124 grain. So when I'm done with this, I'll probably let the gun cool down, put the stock recoil spring back in it, and run that other ammo to see what we get with it. All right, magazines are loaded up again. I'm still gonna have to go back and reload another mag or two to finish out the first 500 rounds. But we'll continue still with the reduced power recoil spring, see how what happens. Didn't get side lock back. Let's try left hand only. right, so we got a few rounds left, and that will finish out the first 500. All right, so that's the last of the 500 rounds for MagTech in these two magazines. I did go ahead and put the stock recoil spring back in it. So if we had malfunctions at the beginning with the stock, and then we have malfunctions at the end with the stock recoil spring, then that definitely tells me that that stock recoil spring is just a little too heavy with the porting. And then I'm going to run some 124 grain, so a little bit heavier bullets through it with the stock recoil spring, see if that makes any difference. So we got slide lockback on both magazines with the stock recoil spring. The brass wasn't ejecting as far though. So a lot of what I've been shooting, if we can see this here, a lot of this stuff, you know, this is all from running it with the reduced power recoil spring. The stuff from earlier and what I just ran was pretty much landing in here. So you can see that's quite a bit difference in where the ejection was going. So I do think that that reduced power recoil spring is the ticket with the porting. So now I'll grab some other ammo and run that through it. All right, so this is Federal American Eagle 124 grain. All right, so I've got 100 rounds of the Federal 124 American Eagle loaded up. I believe the two malfunctions that we had happened within the first 100 rounds. So if we make it through this 100 rounds, that should technically be 500 rounds without any malfunctions. So we'll see what we get. I still have the stock recoil spring in here. We'll see if we need to switch that out with the 124 grain. We might not need to. All right, we got slide lockback. The brass is still landing kind of around here, but we'll continue with it and see if we have any malfunctions. All right, no malfunctions, but the slide did not lock back. So we got through that 100 rounds, no malfunctions. We had one where the slide didn't lock back on an empty mag. That brass was landing, you know, a little closer. It seemed like, from what I could see. So, man, this sucker's pretty hot, but I am going to try to swap out the recoil spring. I didn't bring any gloves with me today. I'm going to try to swap out the recoil spring. And then I'll probably just do 50 more rounds of the 124 and see if the brass ejection is a little better. All right, so I have 50 more rounds loaded up of the Federal 124, and I put the reduced power recoil spring. So the reduced powered spring is 15 pounds. It's from GR Tactical Solutions, 15-pound spring. The stock spring is either 17 or 18. I don't remember, but this is a lower powered spring, and it did definitely seem to make a difference with the 115 grain. So let's see what happens with the 124. All right, we got slide lock back. So again, I'm going to say the gun just feels a little bit better with that reduced power recoil spring. The brass ejections seem to be a little bit better. I prefer the gun with the reduced powered recoil spring. And that is true of pretty much all of my ported guns. I like them to run with the stock recoil spring. This is really about the only platform that's given me issues with the stock recoil spring in there. All my other guns have ran fine with the stock recoil springs, but they do feel better with reduced power. So the downside of this particular platform, the VP9, there just aren't that many places that make recoil spring guide rod assemblies for them. GR Tactical Solutions is about the only one that I found, which it's a nice unit. I have no complaints with it. It's a little pricey compared to some other brands of recoil springs, but it's quality made. I don't think I'm ever going to have an issue with it. And you can, there's a little clip ring on the end. You can buy a tool and extra clip rings if you ever want to swap out the spring, or you need to swap out the springs. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to get this off of here, let it cool down, and then ship it back to my buddy. And I know that he's going to run it through the paces, and we'll see what kind of feedback I get from him. Thanks for watching.